All right. I'll call this meeting to session at 6:01. Robert,
Up here. Yeah. Nice.
go ahead. Kelsey,
Here.
Merle,
Here.
Blake.
Here.
Jenny.
Here.
Chair is here. Please join me at the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I'll open the floor for an agenda consideration.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Was that Blake?
Who is our second? Glenn?
I
Jenny.
so moved it, so Jenny must have.
Got it? Motion carries. Oh, I apologize. I forgot discussion. We have no public comment. All right. Board communication. Classified appreciation week.
Yeah, so we have a link to our agenda there. So last week was Classified Appreciation Week, and so our schools did a wonderful job of celebrating our wonderful classified staff. And when you think about all the different roles that encompass the classified staff, from our custodians to our secretaries to the IAs, people working in our libraries, it's a pretty amazing thing that group represents. I've heard it said before, I'll probably say it again, is I was in a former district, I heard classified described as the glue that holds it together. If you think of a model or something that you make and construct, those models that we used to make, and you'd have the glue that would hold it. And once that glue, attaches, it sort of disappears. It's sort of just embedded into like if it's a model car or something like that. But if that glue wasn't there, that thing would fall apart. And that really, our classified staff, they're oftentimes invisible like that glue, but if they weren't there, we wouldn't be in business. And so I really appreciate all that our classified staff do. Some of their work is visible, some of it's invisible, but we could not function without them. And so really appreciate how the community came together in each of our schools to honor and celebrate and say thank you to our classified staff. And so just wanted to make sure that our board is able to recognize and honor them as well.
Absolutely. Before we move on, does anybody want to make comments? Thank you, classified staff. We do appreciate you. I think of the many hours you spent with my children. So moving on to the high school ASB student representative report.
Thank you for sharing your presentation, and now we're got it projected for you.
Okay, well, for today's board meeting, we're gonna keep it very simple. We don't have much updates, but these three clubs or organizations did have something to say.
So Key Club organized a book donation drive in Woodburn. And they provided every student at the primary school with a book for Literacy Day, which was really cool. And officers attended the district convention in Portland, March 6th through 8th.
And then NHS is continuing to help Mr. Beleg's math help labs on Mondays. And then they did have a successful blood drive on February 19th. They surpassed their goal with 65 units collected, and they're opening their applications for next year very soon.
Prom is April 4th, so it's coming up very soon. It'll be located at Vanderbeck Valley Farms in Mount Angel from 7 to 10. We're selling tickets this week and next week. This week price is $30. Next week is $40. And we've raised $4,000 so far, and all profits from tickets will go right back to the property. And that's all we have today.
Excellent.
Now, time out, wait a second here. So you're both on the cheer team, yes? Okay, so I'm sitting there, if you thought I was on my phone, like being distracted, I was not, because I was sitting there thinking in my head. Okay, when did they win cheer? Okay, it was about a month ago. And then I was realizing, when was the last board meeting? Well, we have a work session, but you don't come to the work sessions. And so this is actually your first time with us since winning state. So how
Yeah.
did, spend a minute, well, how did that feel? What was that like?
It felt kind of unreal, honestly.
Yeah, we were all like very like nervous to get like called like for first place, cause they kept like they were being
Mhm.
very mean, they announced it. Fifth for all divisions, so they said fifth for 3A, fifth for 4A, and then they did it like that.
Oh my
So we had to
goodness.
wait, and then the teams that we thought were gonna win didn't like they weren't, they hadn't placed, so when it got to first, we were like, yeah, like we're cooked, like we're not gonna place, and then when we placed, we were all like, no way, and we all started crying.
Oh,
So so if you each, what do you think got you there? What was the key ingredient?
Definitely, I think our coach helped a lot. I mean, it was her own material, like we didn't have a choreographer, it was just her who made up everything, like. We spent a lot of practices on weekends going there, and the week or two before our competition, she was gone, she was in New York for a work trip. So we actually only had one practice and we didn't do very well at that comp. But I think just we worked really hard, my teammates and my coach, and I think that's what got us there, was just hard work and wanting it.
Yeah, adding to that, I think it was like, I think having Shannon as our coach, really helped us because she was really open to feedback. So when we would like tell her like, hey, like, we don't think this is working, or like when we would get our results back, like she would take that and she would like improve our choreography or like our stunts or like whatever we had to fix. And I think that really helped like our performance a lot.
Well, I couldn't agree more that feedback is how we get better, so thank you so much and congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah, congratulations. Thank you so much.
I can't get out of the chair. Thank you.
Bye, have a great one, thank you. So board communication, see the annual statement of economic interest opens March 15th and the deadline is April 15th. Diane, did you want to add anything to that?
I think the only thing I would say, you've all done it before except Blake. And Blake, you probably got an email to your personal email, I seated you, which means you get a tokens. And so you're all ready just to go in, grab your tokens and file.
Okay, and I'm actually have one more board communication and I apologize that I missed this on the agenda. But we had a student drama technician dad, Mr. Buffton, I assume he has the same last name, donated 8 brand new wireless body microphones for the drama performances. This is a very generous donation and we appreciate it greatly for the drama team and for the other people who use our Gym 2 area. So thank you so much. Thank you. All right, moving on. Consent agenda. If you've had a chance to read that, I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I hear a second?
All second.
Discussion?
That's the one that's HR report.
Yeah.
I have a question. Camps, does that mean end of school to the end of school year?
It can, or it could mean that it is for the duration of someone who might be on an extended leave and returning before the end of the school year, so.
I don't think it had that footnote, but
Okay.
curiosity question. The other one is resignation of boys soccer coach, and we have a A1 soccer team. Do we have a coach?
We, have posted that position and we're currently doing a search for a new soccer coach. So we were fortunate that Raphael, we were able to talk him out of retirement last year. And we were, I think, somewhat hopeful that he might make it more than just an interim, but he committed to making it an interim, so we're out there the job is currently posted, so. So we definitely need to bring in the high caliber to continue the level of success we've had, and you heard from two of our athletes here tonight that coach makes a big difference.
Alright. Okay, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Business and budget.
Turn it over to Kim.
Thank you very much. So tonight, I want to spend a couple minutes, talking about a few things. I've highlighted some of this on the memo, but before we get into some of the movements that have occurred in the last, month, just want to be really clear that we are really deep into budget planning for the upcoming school year. There are so many moving pieces, and literally day by day, we are getting new information. And so we really are staying abreast of every updated projection from the state. In the coming 2 to 3 weeks, we are going to finally find out what our revenue for last school year actually will be, and if we are actually going to be paying anything back, or if we will be getting additional revenue. That, of course, is quite interesting. We are monitoring the current year revenue, which has changed, and we'll talk about that in the financial report. And then we have received our first estimate for next year's revenue. So we are looking at 3 fiscal years to determine what our budget could end up at this year, what we will have available for the upcoming year, and how that may impact how, our operations. And, it's just, those are very critical answers that our community, our staff, our students, that we need to know. And just want to be very publicly clear that we are doing as much as we can, as quick as we can, to stay abreast of these changes. Literally last week, while I was out of the office, there were 3 significant movements in revenues. And so we just want to be clear that it is a very, very dynamic process at this point, at least on the revenue side, which of course then determines what those expenditures can be.
Question for you on that. How do you close out books? Most of business will close out either fiscal or calendar year. So how do you close out last year? When's that date, or how does that process work?
So May of each fiscal year, so the 11th month of each fiscal year, is when we find out what the prior fiscal year actually ended up as. So in May of 2026, we will find out how much revenue North Marion is granted for the 2024-25 school year. And that is an adjustment to the current fiscal year's revenue. So it is a prior year adjustment. It may be positive, it may be negative. It all depends on exactly where every district statewide ended up in terms of transportation costs, in terms of property tax collection, in terms of final student enrollment. And then, of course, the weights, as we talked about, certain students have weights if they have additional needs. And so that reconciliation is 11 months after the close of the fiscal year. So while it is reconciling last year's revenue, it is an impact to current year revenue, of course.
Because if there's an overpayment or an adjustment, it comes out of this.
It comes out of
You
our
don't send it
May
back.
state school fund payment.
Okay. How much of a percentage of movement can there be? Are we talking 10%, 5%?
It could be 10 or 5. You obviously
more?
hope that it's very, very minimal. It's a complex situation because it takes all 197 districts to be as accurate as they can in their projections where do we think our student count's gonna end up? Where do we think our transportation costs are going to end up when our audit is done? Again, you think about, your audit report is what the state is using to create this reconciliation. So when people's audits aren't in by December 31st, in by January, in by February, now the state is up against a barrier, of course. So you would hope to see very little movement in your reconciliation payment if you have managed your own figures carefully. If another district has even an unintentional error or omission in their numbers, it definitely can impact the rest of us. If North Berrien had an error or omission in their numbers, it would be less impactful than if Portland Public had a adjustment. So we really count on a really good network of people trying to make sure that we are as close as we can to saying property tax collections are going to be X. I have already had to submit, in early January, had to submit what we think our property tax collections are going to be for the 26-27 school year. I have to estimate how much people are actually going to pay, not how much is assessed, not how much is, but how much are we actually going to receive in payments? So you start looking at economies, you start worrying about unemployment, those things could impact all of us. And so it is extremely complex. I don't anticipate a huge adjustment in May of 2026. It's a little early to put a projection on that. I don't anticipate it being significant. There are other pieces though to that May adjustment. The high cost disability grant is a very complex state grant that can create a lot of movement for districts. That is another part of the May reconciliation that happens, and so we watch that closely as well. We should have preliminary information towards the end of March as to what our reconciliation could look like.
So does it close out 5/31?
5/15, the May 15th state school fund payment will include the adjustment.
Okay.
So,
Is that
right
where
at budget.
Is that where the 8 to 10%
Ending
Ending
fund
fund
balance.
ending fund balance goal of that was spoken about before is something that would be important to have?
So you're right on my next bullet is that the board's direction on what they would like to see for this district to have goals of ascertaining for an ending fund balance is critical to continuing our budget development. The current school year that we are in, 2025-26, the budget that was approved for this school year has a $1.2 million ending fund balance. That is less than it's 4.4%. So for perspective, this year's ending fund balance as budgeted is 4.4%. Getting to 10% is a lofty goal, and I think, having the board have discussions when we get to that point about approaches we can use on that, but knowing what that ending fund balance, knowing what we want to have in the bank, what we want to budget to have in the bank at the end of the 26-27 school year is really key to building that budget. We kind of know where our revenues are going to go. They're going to shift a little bit, but we kind of know where they're at. So are we looking for a 4.4% ending fund balance again? Are we looking to hit 10? Are we looking to hit somewhere in the middle? Are we looking to create a long-term plan to achieve goals? So perfect segue into later discussion tonight. But I just want to be clear that maintaining transparency and as much early information as we can into the budget process is going to be key, and we're going to continue having those discussions. The financial reports that are linked below, as I said, updates came out just last week, and I have made an adjustment. A month ago, you received a financial report that my first line, state school fund line, I was projecting right over $500,000 in additional revenue over what was budgeted. We've had an adjustment, and the state saw a big adjustment, but unfortunately what this is final enrollment counts from the 24-25 school year have been updated against the numbers, and our counts went down proportionately more than other districts. So I've reduced that by $150,000 because our state school fund for the current school year was reduced about $150,000. So that $353,000 in excess revenue over what was budgeted, again, still includes almost $300,000 of transportation revenue. That exactly is
Might have to be paying back.
is in there. The other state school fund line though, that is what includes property taxes. Collections are looking pretty good, so originally I was thinking we might come in about $38,000 under what was budgeted for property tax collections. It's looking like we might be closer to 20,000. That same line also includes some additional state funds that we finally received our official numbers on, common school fund and some of those pieces. When it comes to expenditures, that is showing a actual, I'm showing a positive movement in that as expenditures continue to be managed extremely well by our buildings and our departments. And that's not to say that it's been an easy road, but the mindset is there that of thinking twice and really looking at our expenditures. So last month I was projecting expenditures coming in approximately $930,000 under budget. This month have been able to increase that to $990,000. I really am hopeful that we can continue on that path because this is going to be key to providing resources to get through next year. The sum result of that is that this month I'm projecting an ending fund balance June 30 of 2026, projecting that could be around the 2.475 million. Last month I had that at 2.55, but of course a change in revenue of a reduction in revenue overall of about $130,000 reduction with a $60,000 positive swing, if you will, on the expenditures. We saw about a $70,000 movement on that ending fund balance. So I project very conservatively. I would love to come to you and have that number be above the 2.475 ending fund balance. Again, we budgeted that 1.276 number is what was approved for the ending fund balance. That was a contingency plus reserve, which is what creates your ending fund balance. So to have revenues projected to end the year $208,000 to the good, if you will, to have expenditures end the year to $990,000 to the good. When we add that to the 1.2 million that we plan to have, that's how we're coming up with this projection at this point. So there's just definitely a lot of moving pieces that will impact this in the coming months. In terms of enrollment, we are seeing the continued slide downward. The historical information is that we will continue to see a reduction in that number through the end of the school year. It's really difficult when you grab one date in time, April 5th, 6th, whatever date I grab the next one. I have a little bit of concern because if somebody takes an extended spring break and they end up missing the week before spring break, and then the week after, they could hit that 10-day drop. Sometimes that can skew these numbers a little bit. However, we love people to go on 9-day trips. However, I had started the year with the projection that we'd end the year at 1,552 for enrollment. I am a little bit concerned we might be under that as I start to look back at the March to June movements, year over year. It's interesting. It's not really consistent, but we might get under the 1,550 mark by just a hair, unfortunately, which of course, again, is budget figures. So. There any questions on that update at the moment, or was there anything additional we talked about that we wanted to try to address at this point? We can talk more about this during fund balance as well, if that would be helpful.
Anything?
I'd say thank you for the report key. That's actually really helpful because that's usually, you know, the questions that I get is what's included in this, so I like that, thanks.
All right, moving on. Board action. You wanna speak to that, Kim? Eight?
The organization growth
Yes,
plan.
thank you, shifting gears, right? So, you know, one of the things that, kind of jumped out at me as I've, you know, been working here, we have a great, employee participation in what are known as 403B plans. That is the public employer's version of a 401K, okay? So employees contribute to those, at their will and can, achieve some tax savings for themselves, just as we would in the private sector with 401Ks. However, public school employees is one of the only sectors in which there are actually two vehicles that employees can invest in. And potentially even increase their tax advantages, I will call it. We do have some employees who reach a limit on their contributions to 403Bs and may be looking for additional tax saving opportunities. A 457 is actually what is called a deferred compensation plan. And it essentially allows you to put funds away today and not pay the tax today, but take the funds out at a later time, not necessarily retirement, and pay tax at that time. This has been an extremely popular tool for school district employees due to the incredible pension system we have. A lot of people are able to retire with PERS before reaching maybe the 59 and a half age at which a penalty would be waived on a 403B plan. A 457 is often a bridge tool that they could start drawing on a retirement plan prior to age 59 and a half. They do have to have severed employment with us, so they couldn't draw on this while they're with us, but it is essentially deferring payroll. It is, I believe about 140 of the 197 districts in the state offer this to their employees. There is zero cost to the employer. The administrative costs, if you're familiar with those on 401Ks or 403Bs and that kind of thing, which are unfortunately taken out of the earnings of the employee, are lower on this plan. It is tied in with PERS directly. And completely optional, but it does provide an additional tool for employees to invest in and potentially receive some tax savings. I was kind of surprised not to see it here. We do have some employees who come and ask, you know, hey, I maxed out this, what else can I do? An employee can actually max out both a 403B and a 457, should they be fortunate enough to be able to put away that much money. But to be able to put $47,000 away tax with no tax, if someone was in a position to do that. I did not see a downfall to adding this. It does not add any administrative time, cost, reporting. And it's very much a large piece of a PERS, if you will, overall retirement plan. So just presenting it to you, it does require a board resolution to allow us to let employees put their own money in it.
Do I hear a motion or is?
Who's the plan administrator on it then? Is the same
Voya,
as the same as the,
it actually is Voya Financial, it's the same as your IAP,
403B.
the PERS,
Okay.
6% IAP.
and the underlying accounts are similar?
So this, people would be able to choose either what they call like the stage funds, where their life funds, you know, will carry the 2040 fund or the 2060 fund, or you can self-direct by picking and choosing, but it is essentially a lot of mutual fund type structures. And yeah, you can actually roll your IAP into your OSG. Sorry, the individual account plan with PERS can actually be rolled into the Oregon Savings Growth Plan. And it's a very common, very common structure in school districts. And so when it was brought up, when employees are asking for other ways and it doesn't have any impact on the district, I felt like certainly another service option we could provide. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we approve a resolution for inclusion in Oregon Savings Growth Plan and 4057
I'll second.
as presented.
Thank you. Glenn and Jenny, any discussion?
I just wanted to ask if this would increase HR payroll, like time, like
Not at all, actually. They're one of the easiest ones to work with.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually are more in tune with school district systems and that kind of thing. So and remittance, everything is through the same process that all of our existing 403B vendors
Okay.
are through. Yeah.
Well, yeah. What is the performance on the investments that they?
Yeah, so it's gonna depend what they choose to invest in, just like with our, we have plans with Fidelity, American Fidelity. I don't think we have Oppenheimer here. We have 4 or 5 different 403B vendors that you can choose from, and you can say, do you want to go risky? Do you want to go international? Do you want to go conservative? So really that is between the employee and Oregon Savings Growth Plan. We are very careful not to get involved in any kind of advice when it comes to how to invest your money or that sort of thing. This literally is just providing basically an opportunity for a pre-tax payroll deduction.
And that would be my only concern, is that they be satisfied that they are getting a good
And that,
return. It gave me a little pause when it looked like maybe PERS was managing it.
these are employee directed investments, so the employee would unfortunately need to blame themselves if they chose to go high risk. And, you know, 1 year they might be really happy, and like many of us, then you get those years that, wow, setback. So, but it's self-managed through their own login and portal, and they can direct and say, okay, I want 10% risky, I want 90% conservative.
So it's other investment companies that actually.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Voya Financial runs this plan. It'd be like using Fidelity or American Funds or BlackRock or whoever else you're with.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to invest money without a risk profile.
I can't say there's not risk. There's always risk to any financial investment.
But I mean, that risk profile, like, you know, you have to fill out
Yeah.
a risk profile.
Choose wisely.
My,
Or your
one
mattress.
question would be, who is the plan administrator, the fiduciary on this then? Like, they're in
State,
charge.
I believe state of Oregon is actually the fiduciary on
Okay.
that. That's an excellent, what is that on the resolution? I
That
can't
kind of
remember. Yeah.
piggybacks on, but
I meant to bring
we
that
have
whole-
no, essentially
We-
no liability and.
Absolutely zero. We have no rights to the funds. We have no, they are immediately vested. There's no, it wouldn't be like a 401k that sometimes is tied to an employer. Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're portable, they can take it with them.
Yes, it is completely portable. So if people come to us from other districts and say, oh, I want to keep doing my OSGP, and it's like, well, we don't have that yet.
That's the kind of arrangement you worked with and managed for a while.
Did, yeah.
Seems all right to you.
Well, I think it's a great, another carrot to dangle for employees. I mean, it gives us
Yeah.
more options, especially if we're really not.
So hers is actually the plan administrator of the OSGP, the PERS board responsibility. Yeah, so you know, it is a 457 plan, just like we could do one with American Fidelity, we can do one with. So I am open to as many options as our employees are interested in. This has just happened to be the one that had been requested, and so if we want to add more 457 options, I am completely open to it. I think it's just provides another option for employees based on what their particular financial situation might be. And it definitely is, I would say, the most popular 457 out there. American Fidelity has them as well.
But our approval tonight wouldn't restrict those options.
Zero, no. For this one specifically requires board resolution. I can't say I've seen that on any other 457 document, you know. I'm guessing it's because they're tied in with PERS.
Okay, there's a first and a second on the table. We've had lengthy discussion. Can we move to a vote?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Moving on.
All right, so we have 2 policy readings. The first one is a sick time revision to the policy, and we discussed it last board meeting. Don't really see the need for further discussion, so unless there's questions, I would turn it back over to you.
Do I hear a motion?
I had one question about what that term concurrently meant. I get lost, I think, with the different medical leave.
So a concurrent, and correct me if I misspeak, but so if you are using employer paid sick time, okay, that can run concurrently while you're under like FEMLA or federal protected leave. So the way Kim and I have been trying to explain it to employees is your sick time is protecting your pay. FEMLA is an overall protection, a federal protection that protects your job, protects your benefits, protects other things, doesn't necessarily protect your pay. And so those would run concurrently so that the sick time is protecting your pay, FEMLA is protecting your job and other benefits related to that. So that's what it means concurrently, running at the same time.
They both get used up together
Yes,
as we go along.
correct.
Okay, I think I like that.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll move we approve. Policy with all the letters as warrants.
So I hear that Merle would like to approve and adopt GCDDD sick time for adoption. Am I correct, Merle?
Yes, that's correct.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Hearing a first and a second, any discussion? Move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, moving on.
Similarly, we have the fund balance policy, which I'm excited that you are adopting this policy. And again, we've had some discussion about this. Just to reiterate, I think ours is a little bit unique to other boards and the fact that we set a goal of 10%. We have an 8% that would, if we are below 8%, that would take board action to have a resolution acknowledging the fact that we are below that threshold. So I think I like the language and I think that this will serve us well, both in budget development and in other arenas.
All right, do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve DBDB fund balance.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Clarify,
Oh,
this is second reading and adoption, that wasn't part of the.
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're correct.
Okay.
Jenny, would you restate that to include adoption?
And make a motion that we adopt DBDB fund balance.
Kelsey, are you still good with second?
Yep.
Okay, with adoption of DBDB. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next up, it's that annual time in March where we renew contracts. And if you recall, back in August, I think it was August, I presented to the board about kind of changes to the procedures and hopefully on what is linked there has a good indication of the length of time that the contracts are being renewed, both for teachers and for administrators. So this is just an annual process that we do. And requesting your approval.
Okay. Do I hear a motion of renewal of personnel contracts for 26-27?
And there is a recommended motion on the agenda, if that's helpful.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion, we vote to approve the recommended renewal and non-renewal of licensed staff and administrator contracts as presented.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Moving on to superintendent reports.
All right, So we're really excited to announce that Jamie Nowak is going to be our primary school principal next year. It was a very competitive and thorough process. Jamie's coming to us from the Bethel School District, where she's currently the principal of a large K-8 school, Prairie Mountain. I'm not sure if it's elementary or K-8 school, but becomes highly regarded with her references, and it was a really like I said, really competitive process. I meant to ask you, Kelsey, if you wanted to, you observed part of the process, and not that you have to say anything about Jamie, but if you have any comments about having watched the process, if you have any comments there.
Yeah, I thought it was really thorough and I was just highly impressed with how you handled all the interviews and the discussions afterwards, and yeah, it was, I don't know, fun to be a part of. I enjoyed it, and I think you guys picked a good one. Yeah,
Good,
Jamie's
good.
gonna be great.
Yeah, really excited to have her here. You know, obviously she has a job to finish up the school year and in a district that's a little bit further away from us. So I know last year we were able to get our high school principal in here and get started. Probably not gonna be able to do that with Jamie as much, but unless she's interested, and then we'll take whatever we can get. So, but really excited to have her, so. It's not on the agenda, but I did announce that we have a new payroll and HR specialist. Shelby Cox started with us today. Really excited to have him, and we actually even, Kim and I mentioned to him today about, hey, it'd be great to have you at an upcoming board meeting, maybe April or May. And did you say that he said he even asked about
He
being
asked,
able,
yeah.
about being able to come and
Yeah.
present? So we'll hopefully have him at an upcoming board meeting and maybe have him present a little bit about some of the work that he's learning and doing with us. And so we're really excited to have him, and comes with payroll experience from both Tigard Tualatin and the David Douglas School District. So we're feeling pretty fortunate there. Anything to add to that, Kim?
I'm really excited for just, you can tell by the questions that are asked, right, day one, and a lot of just the ideas that he has. He very much has a servant's heart, and that's what's near and dear to me, is we are here to serve, and that's, I'm just looking forward to getting to know him better.
And so middle school principal, we're at the very end stages of our process. So we have a few finalists that we're sorting through and trying to figure out, and similarly, very, very difficult decision, because very, very great candidates. And so we'll be making that announcement by the end of the week. I'm hopeful we'll do, and then so we don't meet for another month as a board, so it'll be April 13th when we might talk about that, but appreciate Blake's involvement. And next month he can say a word or two about that process. So, yeah, so excited there. And the last of the superintendent reports is turn over to Des and strategic plan.
Sure, I don't have a ton of updates, but just to kind of give you a little preview of what we've been gradually building. Got a new cover because it looked pretty. But the big thing that we did at our last meeting is we got feedback on what kind of things we'd want to start looking for as data points. And we gave suggestions, used some examples from other districts, and then gave the strategic planning team a variety of different data points and said, which of these are the highest priority? You think we absolutely need to include them? Which of them are lower priorities, et cetera. So everyone was able to vote. And then these are the data measures that were selected by the team. So you can see it's the things we would expect, like our Oregon State assessment data, interim benchmark data from STAR, et cetera. Credit accrual rates, or on track to language proficiency, chronic absenteeism, daily average attendance. So things we would expect. So in terms of the data collection, there are things that we're already collecting data on, but there are some places where we're going to need to build some data points. So for example, when we have things like around improving school climate and we've identified youth truth survey data. What we're gonna wanna do is go through the youth truth. We can look at the broad scope of like climate and culture according to parents, students and staff. And we can also look at individual questions that we wanna see growth on. For example, in the third around talent development, and making sure staff feel valued, supported and connected, there's a question on Youth Truth about like, I feel proud to work at this school. Or I would recommend this school to friends who might wanna work here. So those might be questions that we specifically wanna track the data on as we move forward. As well as like specific student questions. There are also things where we're gonna wanna develop data systems around them, and those were especially true around the talent development. So the team identified the need to have exit interview data, so a system when a staff member decides to leave our district, where we interview them to find out why and get some information. We also heard a really good suggestion from Eric Slosher, who talked about if you had asked me about my first year experience when I was at my previous district versus my first year experience here, and we're like, that is a great set of survey questions. We hired you, you're here for a year, what has your first year experience been like? How we supported you, how can we get better? And so there are data pieces that we already have at our fingertips and some data systems that we're gonna need to develop so we can do a good job tracking these. The other thing that I've added to this, it's not done yet, but you can get a glimpse of it, is that part of the strategic plan will be data. So we will have charts with each of the different pieces. I knew you were gonna like that. Because it will be a living document on the website, then we can link the Google Doc, then as we have developments in that data, we can just keep adding data to it and show growth points. As well as like have like, where are our initial places and where do we wanna grow to it? So that section's kind of here, we'll have one for each performance indicator, a series of data points that we're measuring. Some of them we won't have yet, like we've never collected exit interview data, or we haven't collected first year data. So that will have like a little disclaimer on there about coming soon. But this will allow us to communicate better around how we're doing on the strategic plan. At our next meeting, you'll see these black boxes. That's because I started filling in what are initiatives that we're already working on and doing that are gonna be part of our aligned strategic initiatives. But at this meeting, this is the part where we know that strategic team really wants to have input. More than anything, they wanna say, where should we be focusing energy and efforts? Where should we put some direction and programs in place that haven't yet been put in place? So I didn't wanna like bias them by telling them what we're already doing, so that's why they're blacked out, but that will be the meeting. At our next meeting is them having an opportunity to do some brainstorming. We're gonna make sure we let them know that that brainstorming is suggestions, because we don't want them coming up with $1 billion plan that we can't afford. But we do want to get feedback from them, because often those people, those community members, those staff members are gonna come up with ideas we might not have even thought of. So that is our update on the strategic plan. Right?
And that our next meeting is this Thursday. And we're definitely at the home stretch of this process.
All right, excellent. Any quick questions before I read this executive session?
Quick question, you had mentioned 4 meetings ago that there were only a limited number of assessments that the state of Oregon or ODE was going to approve. And you have STAR listed on there. Did they end up being one as you thought they would?
They did, yeah, we were very grateful for that, and so now we just have to figure out how we're gonna buy it and pay for it, because they are going to require us to have it without telling us a good financial way to pay for it, so. Kim and I are working out how that's gonna impact our budget, but I will say, and I know that Dan communicated out his weekly communication to you guys. that I know there's some ground swelling around what are other ways we can be measuring progress besides OSAT? And the fact that these interim assessments exist and are actually giving us really good data. I know that we've been using them already at the intermediate school and the primary, and we're really happy with the information we're getting from them. Much more useful than the OSAT, which is really a snapshot in a moment of time that kids, like we've talked about, aren't always taking seriously. So it will be a worthwhile investment, I believe. The other piece is that with STAR, as part of our district literacy grant, we purchased a tool called EduClimber, which is kind of a data tracking tool that allows us to get snapshots of kids, and it brings together all the pieces of data, their OSAT data, their STAR data, other pieces of information that we have on them, so we can get a more well-rounded picture of this student and their discipline and everything. And then from there, we can track interventions better, and that goes to work that we've been trying to do for several years now around systems of support and intervention. So we're excited that STAR was selected because those are the same company and they feed into each other very nicely.
Nice. All right, anything else? Okay, before we adjourn into our executive session, I'll read this. The board will now meet in executive session according to ORS 192.660(2)I to conduct deliberations with persons designated to review and evaluate the performance of the chief executive officer superintendent. Members of the media may attend executive sessions except in these specific instances. Deliberations with persons conducting labor negotiations, expulsion hearings, or those pertaining to confidential student medical records and litigation involving the news media. Policy BDC-executive sessions. The board will not be taking any action on this content discussed tonight and will adjourn following the executive session. We will adjourn at 6:53, take a 2-minute break, and go into executive session at 6:55.